Let's go. Former Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga has upset other members of the Liberal Democratic Party when he appeared in an interview on the monthly magazine Bunge Shunju, criticizing current Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. In this interview, Suga first blasted the proposed tax hikes and then proceeded to bash Kishida for not resigning as leader of the LDP Kochikai faction when he was nominated Prime Minister, practice that Suga said is customary. Suga also added that this double role inevitably affects Kishida's decisions, especially regarding his staff, always trying to keep the balance between the factions. And I say that this is true and clear given how the Prime Minister played musical chairs in assigning the ministries after the Unification Church scandal. I think this piece of news is important because Suga, who was a part of Kishida's same faction until 2009 and now leads his own non-faction, was also Prime Minister right after Abe resigned between 2020 and 2021. But after his approval ratings plunged, he abandoned the race for a new term in favor of Kishida. And now many think this move is a way for him to flex his political muscles and stage a comeback, especially with the prospect of snap elections. Also on politics, let's talk about green transformation. With renewed interest in carbon capture and storage technologies across Japan, next week the Kishida government will move forward on a so-called green transformation bill, aimed at a long-term transition to sustainability. The bill will move forward on a number of projects, mainly the creation of a dedicated agency, the introduction of a carbon pricing system, and the issuing of more bonds to support industries going green. For what concerns the carbon pricing system, the idea is close to the cap-and-trade system already at work in Europe, where every company is issued an yearly limit on how many emissions they can produce, and if they end up with unused quotas, they can sell them to less virtuous companies. In regards to the bonds, the government plans to issue them for about 20 trillion yen over 10 years from 2023, although estimates say that the amount needed for an actual transition would be 150 trillion yen over the next decade. To repay the bonds, the government intends to use the profits from the not yet defined carbon pricing system and by increasing taxes on fossil fuels importations. Let's hope they'll manage to do at least half of this. Moving to the environment. The Japan Atomic Energy Agency estimates that it will cost 36.1 billion yen to secure the poorly stored radioactive waste at the Tokai reprocessing plant in Tokai, Ibaraki. Apparently, from 1977 to 1991, circa 800 highly radioactive containers of transuranic radioactive waste were dropped into a storage pool from a wire, causing most of them to lay on their side, overturned, or have indentations due to impact. The containers were found to be improperly stored in the 1990s, and after two major incidents in 1997 and 1999, the plant was closed. The dismantling was decided in 2014, thanks to renewed inspections and attentions to nuclear facilities in the wake of Fukushima, and is expected to take about 70 years at the cost of 1 trillion yen. Ultimately, the containers are supposed to be buried more than 300 meters underground, with the extraction expected to begin in the mid-2030s. More on the nuclear industry. Japan is pivoting from a decade of being cautious with nuclear energy, and we can see this in many areas of the public narration. On Thursday, the Tokyo High Court acquitted 3 former high-ranking TEPCO executives of charges of criminal negligence that resulted in injuries and deaths during the evacuation near the Fukushima plant in 2011. In 2002, the government made a long-term evaluation saying that tsunamis up to 15.7 meters tall could have hit the Fukushima plant in case of a quake. Even though TEPCO received the report in 2008 and failed to create safety measures for such an occurrence, the High Court found that that was not their responsibility, nor the government's, just a tragic accident. But in a separate suit in July 2022, the Tokyo District Court found the 3 former executives guilty of negligence and ordered them to repay the shareholders 13 trillion yen. So they're economically responsible, but not criminally? The ruling comes as LDP Vice President and former Prime Minister Taro Aso claimed at a rally that in Japan there has never been a fatality at a nuclear plant facility, which is false, both if we consider deaths caused by radiations or not. For instance, the Tokai plant that I mentioned earlier had an accident in 1999, when under pressure for being more efficient, the administration implemented criminally negligent practices that, among other things, caused 2 employees of being directly exposed to high levels of radiation and subsequently die. But that never happened, apparently. Still on the environment, Did you know that Japan's oak trees are confronting a pandemic too? All around Japan, oak trees are withering and dying en masse because of a fungus that causes the oak wilt disease, known as naragare, carried around by the ambrosia beetle. The Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries Ministry estimates the extent of the damage for 2021 to be 153,000 cubic meters of wood. The researchers of Kobe University seem to think that the solution is to regularly cut down healthy trees while they're young, or to practice coppicing, a practice that allows trees to put out new shoots from stumps and roots and rejuvenate. The problem is, the process has to be economically sustainable, and not many people use this kind of wood or even know they have it in their land. But with the war in Ukraine and lumber prices skyrocketing, there is an opening in the market. Therefore, researchers are trying to facilitate its usage, either for furniture or for green tourism, by increasing awareness through a tagging system paired to an app that stores every tree's data and then can be accessed by people in the industry, artisans, and amateur woodworkers. Next up, foreign politics. On Friday the 13th, Kishida met with Biden at the White House. Among other things, the two talked about economic topics like the IRA, protecting the production of key technological components, but most importantly, Japan's updated military stance. Biden praised Japan's intentions for rearming, and the two issued a joint statement criticizing Russia, North Korea, and China. In particular, the statement references a strong opposition to quote-unquote unilateral attempts to change the status quo, sentence that has been interpreted as pointing to China. The reinforced cooperation between the two countries comes indeed at a time when Japan is feeling most threatened of an attack by China to Taiwan, which could seize the momentum of chaos ignited by Russia to try and advance its own agenda. Let's hope this renewed cooperation will discourage China from attempting the worst. In other news, the relationship between Japan and South Korea remains strained over the issue of wartime laborers' compensation. But if you want to know more about that, be sure to tune in to my news analysis video tomorrow at noon. This is it. I am Kay, and this was Japan This Week. Thank you as always for watching, and if you like my work, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. See ya!